Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our 1 o'clock webinar, Creative, Accessible and Exciting Digital Learning with Purple Mash. My name is Tim Wilson. I'm your host today, and I am delighted to welcome Lucy Runham from Too Simple, who I will introduce shortly. A little about me. I am one of a team of CAS community outreach managers operating throughout the country. I'm responsible for managing computing at school CAS communities of practice across the Midlands and a large part of the Southwest. And we do this as part of the National Centre for Computing Education. This webinar is the latest part of the CAS Virtual Showcase. We are into day 9. There is only one day to go after this, and we've been delighted to introduce to you over 50 webinars designed to support the CAS community. Now on to our speaker. Lucy is the Regional CPD Manager for Too Simple, covering the Southwest and Wales. Lucy has extensive experience working in educational technology, both developing resources and delivering high quality CPD in her area. She works hard supporting schools with their use of Purple Mash to ensure that they get the best value out of their investment. And we are delighted that Lucy is here today to talk about Purple Mash in more detail. Before I hand over to Lucy, a few bits of housekeeping. So if you have questions during the session, please use the question window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. As many of you know, if you've been attending the CAS Virtual Showcase, all attendees are in listen-only mode. So if you are looking for comments or questions, you have these things to ask, the top of the window has an orange rectangle which can be expanded or collapsed. And if you expand the rectangle, you will find the questions tab. If you're using social media, in particular Twitter, the hashtag for the event is CAS Virtual 20. Lucy's Twitter handle is Lucy Runham and mine is CAS Midlands, and I'll post these in the chat once Lucy begins her talk. Apart from that, without further ado, I'm delighted to hand over to Lucy. Lucy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tim. Right, I'm just going to, it'll look a little bit like I'm looking to one side of the set because I've just moved my webcams across. So you should be able to see Purple Mash on your screen. You should be able to also ask questions in the chat, as Tim said, so please do that. Now what I'm looking at, you should be looking at on my screen now, is Purple Mash. I'm actually going to bring up a short presentation with some kind of overview of what we're going to cover in the session, and these slides will be shared with you, I think, after the session and uploaded to the CAS site. So we're going to look a little bit about what Purple Mash is and how it can support teaching across the curriculum. We're going to look a bit at tools and resources in Purple Mash. We're going to look at tools for coding and computational thinking. We're going to have a quick look at the scheme of work and resources for lead teachers. We'll also have a quick look at setting and differentiating work with Purple Mash and sharing work, things like QR codes. Now, that's an awful lot to squeeze into 40 minutes, so I'll do my best to get it all in. But what we'll do is we'll just flip through some of these slides first. So just a quick look at what's inside Purple Mash. So when you log into Purple Mash, you're greeted with kind of these main buttons on the home screen. If I flip it out into Purple Mash, you'll see those buttons here. You've got tools, games, mini mash and serial mash, and we'll have a little look through all of those during the session. You've also got subjects listed underneath them. You've got resources that have been tailored to topics that fall within subjects. So in science, you've got things like plants, the human body, materials, animals, that kind of thing. You've got the different areas of maths in there. And if you go through to topics, you'll find history and geography topics, the Romans and rivers and volcanoes and all those sorts of things as well. So you've got quite a nice range of cross-curricular resources. We flip down quickly, we'll have a quick peek into the tools. So in the cross-curricular creative tools, we'll have a look in there in a moment, but they're split down into subject areas or categories. You've got English, maths and data handling, music and sound, knowledge and understanding the world, communicating and sharing, quiz and game creation, coding and art and design. So a bit of a mouthful, but you've got lots of tools there to teach computing across the curriculum, basically. So you can create graphs, you can do data handling, you can so you can teach science objectives and geography objectives, etc., through some of the tools in the computing curriculum through the tools in Purple Mash. I'm just going to jump down to the next slide. We'll have a little look quickly at tools for coding and computational thinking. If you look down to the bottom left-hand side here, you'll see just a bee flying to some flowers. This is an application we've got called To Go, where if you see in the middle here, children drag arrows, so direction and values into a series of a sequence of instructions, and then they press play, and whatever their programming will carry out those instructions. So it's a bit of a reflection of the Bebop and Roma work, the work they might do on Bebops and Romas, but on the screen. So those two quite nicely hand in hand. And then to the right of that, we've got logo. So you see here it says EG FD5RT90. So there's a series of logo challenges in Purple Mash that we might have time to have a look at, where children program to achieve an end goal. So in this case, they've got to draw the flags back on this ship. And then just above that, we've got a little flowchart. So we've got to chart there for mapping out algorithms. And just to the left of that, you've got to code. You've got an app that's based on JavaScript that children use the kind of code blocks to learn how to kind of various different principles of programming. To the right of that, we've got this kind of 3D maze example, and children can use another app, 2DIY 3D, this one here, to create virtual environments and games. So we'll have also a look at some examples of some children's work in there. Jumping down once more, so Serial Mash, the last of our kind of main buttons on the screen. You've got a series of books. So you've got ebooks here, and in here we can see the Emerald's batch of books, and each book is split down into chapters, as you can see from this screenshot. The children can read the chapter, and then to the right of the chapter, they've got a series of activities, SPAG activities, comprehension activities, and open-ended activities related to that chapter. Popping down to the next screen, Purple Mash is set up in a way that staff and pupils log in as themselves. We have kind of a straightforward login system for children when they go into Purple Mash on the iPads or on the computers in the school. They should be able to choose their class and then their name from a list a bit like this. These aren't real children's names. A list like this, and then they pop in their password. And for the younger ones, you can see from this image here, it can be simply a picture password such as rabbit, elephant, and then they click on the smiley face and they log in. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for the younger children to log in. If you're a user and you're not sure this is set up and the children are typing in usernames and long passwords and things in your school and it's a hindrance to them logging in, then please do get in touch with us, because we can set up this system where the children kind of click through quickly and pop in a picture password quite straightforwardly. So in the background of Purple Mash, the children's logins are arranged into classes which reflect their actual classes, which means that children can log in and teachers can log in, and teachers can see the work that the children in their class have done. And it means that also they can set tasks for children in their class, group children in their class, and that kind of thing. Okay. Gone down 2 there. So setting tasks in Purple Mash. So we've had a look that there was quite a few of the tools in tools and coding tools and things like that. If you wanted to direct children to a specific task, then you can set it as something called a to-do, which we'll have a look at shortly. And when you set a to-do, it enables the children to go straight to that task. But also, can you see in this kind of green area to the right here, there's a to-do that the child has handed it in with a note, and then the teacher has marked it and suggested a point for improvement, i.e. try adding some objectives to your story plan. Actually, that has been added with a voice note as well, an audio note. And then the child has edited this one, added in some extra things and re-handed it in with a note, and then the teacher has suggested the next step, and so on. So you can kind of take an activity and set it as a to-do and communicate over it as the children are doing it. Any activity that has got a score, so it's got a clear right or wrong answer, you can pull out scores and statistics to see how they've done. So it will mark it and you can see how the children have done. So just quickly moving through to other things we're going to cover. The scheme of work here is thorough. It's split down the computing curriculum into themes, and to the right here you'll see there's a key here of the different themes, and then each of the units are arranged by year group, but we also got mixed age cycle suggestions as well. The scheme of work is designed to be a bit flexible. It's designed to fit with your curriculum if you teach a thematic curriculum. If you're looking at something like year 1, for example, if you can see this on the screen, you've got the units suggested in this order, but that doesn't mean you have to teach them in that order. If, for example, you look at this and think, okay, we do a big authors focus in autumn 2, animated storybooks might be quite nice with that. Have a look at the unit and then change the examples out for the authors that you're doing, and then move that unit to where you're doing it. Can be moved around. The only kind of thing I would look at is if you're jumping like a red unit back over the top of a red unit, I would just check that there's no prior learning in the previous unit that's assumed. But with this one, a prime example of this year 1 is you might move animated storybooks to a big writing or authors focus, And you might think, okay, later, so spring, summer term, we're doing mini beasts and perhaps grouping and sorting or pictograms. Spreadsheets might work quite nicely with that. So you kind of can look at the content of those units and move them, and then you know, replace the examples with mini beast examples and kind of make it work as much as possible for you. Okay, so underneath that then, there's a little screenshot here, and we've got, so this is an example of the year 3 folder. Each of the units that are suggested in here has got a unit number. So these are all year 1 units, so they start with 1 point. This example is 3, so they've got, each of the units then have got a folder of unit plans and resources for that, and we'll have a little look at that as well. Okay, now alongside the scheme of work, there is an assessment system built in. There's a data area in Purple Mash that does assessment in Purple Mash, but there's also this kind of Excel spreadsheet that you can download and you can pop assessment into as well. So it's whichever is your preferred method. If you don't have Purple Mash at the moment, then the computing scheme of work you can access for free using the link at the top here. If you just Google Purple Mash scheme of work, then you should be able to find a link to download it. And the assessment system, the assessment tool, is also free as well to download. So you can just download it. It's got the objectives in a column. It does link to the Purple Mash units, but it has got just the objectives, and then you've got the names across the top there, and you can pop in the judgments underneath. Just 1 click will bring up emerging, 2 clicks will bring up expected, 3 clicks will bring up exceeding. It's all kind of programmed for that. Okay, kind of a hand in hand with the scheme of work and the assessment, we've got the computing lead toolkit, which has got a progression of skills documents in, as well as lots of other examples. So things like audits of computing, budget tools, pupil voice, those kinds of things. And again, lots of different ways you can print the progression of skills as well. There's the ability to share work. Now, the great thing about work being online now is that we can create kind of interactive notice boards, as you can see to the right here, QR codes and links, and you can generate QR codes and links for every piece of work that you create in Purple Mash. Just going down to the next one then, kind of the last slides we're going to have a look at before we jump into Purple Mash, and that is the mini mash. So we have got mini mash especially for nursery and early parts of reception tend to use mini mash. Mini mash, as you can see here, has got a set of trays in the middle, and children save their work into trays. They put it in their tray in mini mash. It's designed to reflect an environment or a setting that the children are familiar with. So the background is interactive. If I just pop into mini mash now, actually, just going to click on mini mash to go into mini mash. If you are a Purple Mash user and you want to generate trays for all of your pupils automatically, that can be done under mini mash settings. You simply select your class and generate a tray for each pupil to yes, and it will automatically create the trays. When you enter mini mash here, you'll see that the background is all interactive. I can hear sound. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to transmit through to you, but the background is all interactive. You can go inside and outside the door, and everything I hover over has got sound support. So it's saying to me role play, it's saying to me drawing and painting, and you'll see that there's nice big buttons that the children can use to explore it. Okay, going to come out of that one and out of that one. If you do find yourself in mini mash, if you're having an explore after the session and you want to go back to Purple Mash, you need to click on the logo actually to click go back to Purple Mash. This is almost like your control button as a teacher, and it's where you'll get back to help files, links to early years framework, scheme of work, teacher tools, etc. We have disabled the back button after a certain point, so it will take you back within mini mash, but it won't take you out of mini mash back into Purple Mash, because we found that when teachers put children in mini mash, they usually wanted them to stay in mini mash. Okay, so I'm going to click on the logo there and click to go Purple Mash. It's a conscious, I want to go back to Purple Mash decision there. And we're going to start really in Purple Mash by having a little look through some of the tools. And just before I do that, you can see to the top right here, just a bit of information about the screen. It's who I'm logged in as and the school I'm logged into. Just for information today, this is a completely fictional school. It's designed for demoing. There so that when I set to-dos in demos, real children don't see them and think they've got to do them and that sort of thing. But every school has their own unique account, so you can't get your pupils mixed up with any others, etc. It's all kind of completely separate. Down the right hand side, you've got anything that's featured. At the moment, we've got Busy Beats because it's new, so we release, it's a subscription service, Purple Mash, and we release new things fairly frequently. So Busy Beats is new, and if you use Purple Mash and you haven't seen Busy Beats, do have a little look. We've got weekly activities, we've got parent blog at the moment, and we've got a link through to remote learning. So if you're using it to support remote learning, then you can go straight into here where you can get to a series of PDF ideas and also further tuition videos. And these will go into much more detail than what we're going to get into today. In remote learning, actually, I've just noticed there's a new addition link. We've got the training platform, and there's further CPD available for Purple Mash through the training platform there as well. So that's worth having a look through. So the right-hand side, you've got featured. They've talked about the main buttons of resources there briefly through the presentation. Just talking about along the top, what we've got along the top here are some functionality. So if I was to go into the tools and I was to use a coding tool or graphing tool to create some work, then I would save it. And ordinarily, I would save it into Purple Mash. And so there's a work area at the top where I can find all the work I've been doing in Purple Mash, and everything I've done is tagged with the name, obviously, of called it, the program it was made in, who it was made by, and the date there. Okay, going to go back to the home page there. So alongside the work along the top, you've got a link to the to-dos. So I've mentioned to-dos briefly. That's the system that you've got in place to set children particular tasks. You've got the data area where you can see the scores and any judgments made against objectives in the scheme of work. And then you've got also a button for sharing where you'll find display boards and blogs, and then teachers, information, and admin and help. Now, the children don't see the teachers or the admin or the help buttons there. They are kind of buttons for teachers to kind of set up the settings and manage the users and that kind of thing. Okay, if you did want to manage any of your users, put your class into groups, any of that kind of thing, you can do that. You can do that in create and manage users area under admin. It's worth getting to know what's behind the admin panel in terms of managing Purple Mash. Quite useful to obviously know the create and manage users area, but you've also got things like editing your account in here, e-safety settings, and the ability to print the pupil logins as well. And that will generate little login cards for the pupils. While I'm in this one, actually, in here, if you wanted to generate login cards for your pupils, you've got the option of PDF login cards, but you also have the option of letters to parents. Some people miss that. You can generate a letter for each child with their login at the top and just print that rather than attaching the login cards to letters. So let's have a little look at some of the content then. So I'm going to dive into tools. And I've mentioned the categories earlier when I was looking at the screen grabs. I'm going to scroll down in here really. I'm just going to talk about a couple of different tools and how they can be pulled together in the multimedia tools. So we've got tools under art, such as 2Paint and 2Paint Picture, that children can use to generate and explore digital art. So I'm going to just launch 2Paint Picture. So with this one, you've got various different styles. Lots of you have used this. It's very popular pre-Purple Mash and inside of Purple Mash. Lots of different styles you can choose from, and depending on the style you choose, let's choose Mosaic and click on OK. You get different kind of paint tools and things down the left-hand side. Now at this level, children can use it to explore colour. They can explore the different kind of paint styles here, and they can start creating their artwork. To the top right there, you've got different kind of guides and frames. So I can click on that one, move it around, and then paint around that, and my painting will have that perspective. I've got a full body here that I can move around, and I've got different perspectives I can add on there as well. I'm just going to take that off there. I can also go up to here and click on new and choose a different style. Some people miss this, pointillism, and I can use that picture and this style, choose a different color and mix the different styles together as well. So there's a bit of flexibility here. Now, there's lots of tools that we're not going to get into today, and just want to point out at this point that anything that I show you should be viewable in the help videos to the top right of all the applications. Okay, but another thing I wanted to show you in here was this kind of backgrounds button that we've added in. Now, this is kind of, I think, made this program brilliant. So you've got lots of different backgrounds that children will become familiar with, because if they were to add a background in here, it would be the same backgrounds kind of dialog box as they would if they had added a background in 2Code or to create a story, etc. Okay, with any of these dialog boxes, you can choose to take a picture with the camera. You can choose a file from your computer. Now, I was working with some Year 5s recently, and they were creating games. They were creating some of those 3D games that we mentioned briefly earlier. And they were doing a theme, following a theme. The theme was swords and sorcery, and they found some images that they then put in as the backgrounds. I haven't got one of those images on here, but were put in as the backgrounds, and then they painted it out, basically. So if I was to put a castle on here, for example, I could use this castle as an idea, a bit like the perspective, and then I paint over certain bits in certain shapes, and then kind of paint it out completely. Now, because of time today, you're not going to see the full effect of that. But it really is quite cool. Another way I've seen this used recently is using the camera, actually. A teacher that I was working with down in Devon. Oh, it can't use the camera because I'm using it for the webinar, but took a picture of herself and put it on the screen, and they were doing self-portraits, and then used the textures available to paint out the picture in the background. If I just go to open here, you'll see a couple of more I guess paintings that my colleagues put more time into, so you can see kind of an idea of what can be done if the children have a bit of time with it. It's got a Cezanne there, we've got a Miro here, but of course as well, if they're kind of layering up the textures and mixing the styles and things, they can really generate quite nice backgrounds and scenery for games and stuff. And once children have created their work, I mentioned they could save it into their Purple Mash. They've all got a work folder in Purple Mash. They can all see their work folder, and you can see their work folder, but they can't see each other. So their work, everything they put in there is kind of safe to them. If I come out of here now, okay, you've got just to the bottom, to the right of that, you've got some music tools. And in the same way as kind of the art tools, where you can explore digital art and come up with some quite nice imagery, you can do that with the music tools. I'm just hovering over this one. You can see here, you click on the different boxes and kind of color them in to make that sound play, and the children can explore sound, and they can export sound, and they can save sound. And so you've got tools. So you've got the tools, you've got the art tools, you've got the music tools, and then you've got tools in Purple Mash like to animate, to create a story, and things like 2DIY 3D, which I'm going to pop into now, where children can then bring together what they might have made in the paint programs, what they might have made in the music applications, and create their own multimedia resources. So in this case, it's a game, but to animate, it would be a short animation, and to create a story, it would be a nice interactive story. So with this one here, I've got, these are the walls to the left-hand side. So they start off as an example. Okay, but I can click on that to change it. So I can click on that and change it. And I can click on choose a file. That will bring up my work folder, and then I can select any art that I've popped into the my work folder, and that will bring that into, there you are, 2DIY 3D, and that will become my walls. Just to see what that looks like a little bit when I press play, I'm going to add on a couple of things that are good and add on a baddie as well. You see on the left, I've got various different styles of wall. I've got up to 4. I've got ground and ceiling and sky, etc. And when I press play at the top here, it will generate me that 3D environment that I can game in. Got to spin right round, I think, to see my wall. There it is there. Okay. I can click on the coins to change them to whatever I want them to be. And again, they can be images that I've generated into Paint. And I can click on the eye to the top right to add instructions to my game, so title, instructions, and then I can edit the lines, etc. So a nice bit of writing in there as well. Once they've collected all the good things, they can go on to another level and create the next level. Now I'm just going to pop into a different version of Purple Mash here quickly, so I can show you some examples. So this is the children I was working with recently. If I click on this, these are some of the images they've drawn in Paint. For their games, so things to collect, goodies, baddies, that kind of thing. This one load, there's a baby dragon. He was a fire-breathing baby dragon, that one there. And then there's a door for them to unlock, so they had to find the door to go through the door to the next level, that particular one. If I just come back to here as well, so we've got this one, which is Castle Walls, which in this case kind of looks fairly unexciting. However, when you look at it in the game view, if I just go, I think that one was level 2. If I press play now, here. Now you can't see you can't hear, sorry, the ambient music that I'm listening to in it with Cockle. There we go. So when it comes to Castle Walls, it's quite clever, the effects that their children can make. And with this one, you can see they were collecting keys as well as they went round that they'd drawn in other places. So it's quite impressive what the children can do when they start thinking about the artwork that they make and the sounds that they make there. So that's a 2DIY 3D. As I mentioned, you can do import sounds and things into kind of other multimedia areas. So if I went up to create a story here, we've got a simple story creation tool. You've got simple story, my story, and my adventure story. Okay, and in here, you can, let's go straight into adventure story. Again, you can add a background in, and you'll see that as you move through, the children will find that the background's dialogue familiar, and they can choose a file if they want to add a background in that they've put on their computer, that they've made in one of the Paint programs. You can also add a background from your computer, so it doesn't have to be made in Purple Mash. You can add an image or photograph from your computer onto that one. And when you've selected an image and click on open, that will add that in as the background then for that image. And or you can add the paint tools to it as well, using the tools on the left. You can paint on it. Okay, I've used this one actually for like a trip, so just an interactive book. Put a different photograph on each page from the trip, and the children write about it underneath. If I just pop on a background, I should have done that a minute ago, a background there from our galleries. Here you can also add sprites on, so if I click on the dragon and add on a fairy princess, I can then make that fairy princess animate when I click on her. There we go, go in a circle, and I can also link her to another page. Now I haven't got any other pages yet, so let's put that one over there. I can turn the page again. Now what I can do is I could copy the first page and paste it onto the other pages if I wanted the same background on multiple pages. Actually, I'm going to add onto this page some pyramids, and I'm going to add onto this page the castle. Click on OK. And so I could make the princess link to the castle. I could also add, here, go to the castle, a button on there, and then I can click go to page and choose castle, and that would also take me through to the castle. Okay, pop that up there. This is also nice for kind of non-linear text. You could have, if you're doing Egyptians, Romans, kind of anything like that, projects, then you could have maybe a button that takes you through to a page that's been created on, I don't know, Egyptian food, and then a page on Egyptian clothing or family life or life after death, that kind of thing. There, and when you press play, okay, if you click on things, obviously that one will animate. It'll probably take me, I click on that one, that will take me to the castle. This button at the top here will show you which page is linked to which. And you can write underneath, you can write your story if it's a story creation that you're doing. And you can also use the sounds button here to import files that you've made in the sound and the music programs, but also to record your own music or record your own sound. And you can record what you've written underneath as well. So when you press play, it's really nice. You hear the story being read, you can click and interact with the story, or you can see the animations happening. As with all the tools, you've got this button up at the top there that will take you through it for the videos. I've scrolled down a little bit here. In coding, you've got, I mentioned to go, fly to the flowers. Now I'm just going to pop into here quickly and just point out with this one, it's also completely customizable if you're doing thematic curriculum. You've got the backgrounds there that you can choose from, and then you've got the option to make your own, and that will bring up this box here, which you can draw your own, or again, you can import. So it's the same as other apps. Okay, I just saw a lovely example recently of this one. The school were doing a bear hunt for the anniversary of the bear hunt, and they'd drawn the map in the paint programs, and then they had to move their whatever it was. I'm going to call it a turtle, but if you can make it whatever you want to, or make your own round to the cave there. So got going on a bear hunt example. You've got things like logo in here. I mentioned logo. Now you've got logo itself. I mean, I showed you the one earlier where they had to draw flags on the ships. That's part of a series of challenges called the Time Crimes of Loganator. My son's doing these at the moment, actually, and he's loving them. And if I jump into one of these, basically the theme is the Loganator goes back in time. So there's a short video. He tries to basically send history on a discourse by making sure certain key events don't happen, and the children have to save the day. So with this one, you've got the boat here, and you have to make sure it gets to its target without hitting the bank. So if I go, I can help with the grid, I can be helped with the grid, and I can be helped with the protractor. And I've also got some commands down the right hand side, so I could be helped also. But look at this, it's lined it up to 0 for me. I'm going to go about 40 degrees, and then forward, I'm going to go about 4, and then press play, and it will take that off me. And then I can carry on. Actually, if I carry on, let's do left turn 10, forward 3, and see what happens. So if I press play there, it will take it back off, hit the edge. Look at that, collision detected. I was a bit hasty there, not enough degrees in my turn. So lots of debugging kind of naturally goes on with this. And then when the children want to check their answers, they can check it, and then they can go on to the next one. And it moves through. So with this one here, you've got the protractor to help you, got the protractor in most of them to help you. You've got repeat commands that are introduced in Dreamtime Drawing. They can't get through without using the repeat commands. And then right through to things like the Amazon, where they've got to use the repeat command, and they've got a few procedures in here to draw the leaves on the flower, petals of the flowers. And you have got some sort of support with angles a little bit as well there. Okay, so you've got lots of logo challenges. You've also got logo itself. Logo itself in here is completely open-ended, and again, you've got the commands on the right-hand side, but you can theme that how you want. So you could put in a background if you want to, or you could just get them to put in their own. You can move this around. That's the islands one, similar to the one we just looked at, but with islands. You've got the map of Europe there, so you can challenge the children to go through different areas. So this is nice cross-curricular with maps and mapping as well. If you wanted the children to do that, let's just change the turtle because they love Pac-Man. Looks good. So let's change that. They can go to the menu. You can go to the menu and you can click on share. Okay, now you save that into your work folder as a teacher. And once you've saved that into your work folder, this option here that says allows you to have the option of setting it as a to-do. And then when you set it as a to-do, call it map logo. Map logo. We're going to see who it's set by. You can add audio instructions if you want to. You can add curriculum objectives if you want to. So you can say, okay, that's for computing, whatever you're teaching. And then everything that's done through that to-do will be tagged with that objective. I click on next. I can set a date and a hand-in date for that. And then also I can choose whether it's restricted to be done at school, at home, or at any time. And next, and then I can choose which classes or which group of children I want to set that for. And set to do. And that's picked out that logo activity. And it's popped it into my to-dos area up here. When I scroll down, I'll see map logo at the bottom. And as a teacher, you can go admin and impersonate pupil. You can choose a pupil such as Alfie, click on OK, and then Alfie will have an alert to say he's got a new to-do. And under to-dos, can click on start and is taken straight through to your challenge. Okay. When children have done the to-dos, it'll automatically make a folder and put the work in there, so that when you finish the to-do, you've got a view folder button. There's none in there because none of the children have done it, so I'm going to just go for one up. A view folder here, the children's work is in a folder, and that folder on the left-hand side, you've got your work, you've got your class. Okay, and within your class, there's two folders that staff can see and pupils can't. The first one allows you to look in and see the work in your children's folders. And the second one makes a folder for the to-dos you set and pops the work in there. So you can mark that work. There's a mark button at the top. You can add rewards to it. You can judge it against a curriculum objective, and you can add a teacher comment, so you can go through and mark the work. And then when you've finished your to-dos, you can close it, and you can choose to copy the work back to pupil folders, and that will send that to Kellen and that to Brooks, etc. You can also choose that it's in their folder, but your folder is also left here with the work in it. So if you need it for evidence, you can come back here, click on it, and use it. You can do things in here like multiple select and bulk add a comment or add judgments to multiple pieces of work at a time. And you can also print and generate PDFs from here of the work the children have done. So this one here that I've clicked on, Fun with Fish, that's a computing activity from 2Code. Now I mentioned 2Code earlier. You've got, it's a kind of based on JavaScript, it's the block-based coding. You've got chimp, gibbon, and gorilla. The bigger the monkey, the more complex the coding. You've got solutions at the top here, as well as a series of video tutorials. But in short, in each section, you've got a series of themed activities, and at the end, you've got a sort of an open-ended free code. So if I was to jump into one of these themed activities, I've got a series of building block stages where the children learn a particular skill. And then I've got a debug stage where they consolidate and they unpick some code that either doesn't work or doesn't do what the monkey wants it to do. And then they've got a more open-ended scene that they can add to and use to practice programming on the same theme that they've been kind of covering in this application. So if I click on the first one, make the night move to the right, they get a short challenge video. They're not told exactly how to do it, so they can unlock a hint if they want to. And then they can flip between the code screen and the design screen and press play to see the code play out. So if I click on stop there, make the night move right, I can go night to the right, press play, and the night will move to the right. And once I've completed that challenge, I can move on to the next challenge, etc. Now with these ones here, if I just jump down a little bit to the open-ended code to gorilla, so we've gone from the very early stage of chimp to the end of gorilla here, but just to give you an idea of the range, in here you've got the different commands that you've come across up to that point in gorilla, and then you've got an opportunity to see the JavaScript up to the top right and to see the design here. Now, as I said, there's nothing on here, it's open-ended, so they can click to add an image, And of course, they'll get this familiar window up, and they can use the camera, or they can choose a file, which can be a photograph or whatever they want to, or something they've created in another program, or choose one of our examples. And then they can start adding objects on from the left. They can double click on them to change them. They can rename them using the kind of properties box here. And they can also kind of edit where they are in terms of coordinates. They can look at rotation, angle, speed, etc. And then when I press exit design here, I've now got duck over here. I could do when clicked on duck, and I could do duck goes. Now I haven't got right, left, up, down. I've got speed this time. Speed is set to, we'll set it to 50. You've got different tabs to organize the code. So you might have a tab for direction, a tab for collision. So when you get to coding at the gorilla level, the children tend to be able to kind of put a lot of code in. And when it comes to debugging, it's helpful if they've organized it into the tabs. They can see which code went wrong. They can get to it more quickly. If I press play now and I click on the duck will move ever so fast. So if I press stop actually and then go to see code, you can actually also get them to start working with the JavaScript. Now there's only a bit here because they've only got one piece of code on there. But actually when they start putting lots of code in, it's quite nice to be able to get them to flick between the two, just so they get used to what the JavaScript looks like and the kind of structure of it. Press play there, duck speed is 10, duck will go off at a speed of 10, so slow down. I can actually change it here and then it will refresh when I stop and play it. It will go a bit slower again. Okay. So lots of things you can do in here. You can see you've got if-else statements, variables, and all sorts of other things there. And children are introduced to all those things through the themed apps. If you've got coding that you want to be taught across the school and you want to use the planning, I'm just going to pop into teachers and computing scheme of work. And in here, if I jump into, say, year 5, there's a coding unit, there's a spreadsheets unit, there's online safety in every year group, and then other ones are the units are kind of spread across the year groups. If I go into coding, you'll see that in coding and in spreadsheets, in fact, you've got a crash course as well as the coding course. So if children haven't done coding, the sort of year 1 to 4 units, then they perhaps could try the crash course, and then that will help them access the coding course. Any resources you need for any of the units are displayed underneath, and you can set to-dos from here. Okay, so if you wanted them to do the coding vocab quiz, you can click on it and set a to-do there. If you wanted to look at it, coding vocab quiz, you can play it to have a look through it yourself. You can stop all the quizzes and have a look through them and make any edits you want. And if you want to edit any of the quizzes, you then just edit them, and then you've got the menu up here, and you can share them to the children via to-dos. Okay, so I come out of this one here. Within the units themselves, if I just open up an example here, if I scroll down, you've got a series of kind of aim success criteria, sort of a midterm plan there. And then for each lesson, you've got links to all the resources, which you can right click and open a new tab. So things like displays and flashcards, cards, physical activities that they might do alongside the coding unit, they're all in here as well. And as well, what you've got here, if I scroll down, any definitions there are in kind of these highlighted boxes. You've got lots of screenshots of how to do it. It's very step by step. And then towards the very end, if I just skip through, you've also got some assessment guidance. So what emerging might look like in terms of outcome, expected, exceeding, that kind of thing. Okay, so you've got kind of all the support there. If I come back up out of here, okay, you've got the overview of the whole scheme is here. And then the computing subject lead toolkit is next to it in the subject leads toolkits, and that's where you'll find things like the policies, the progression of skills documents, all those kinds of things. So you should find with it, if you want to use a scheme of work, you've got kind of quite a comprehensive planning there that you can use. But as I said, do kind of tailor it for what fits you best. It makes a lot of use of the tools, and lots of the tools can be themed in a way that I've shown you, kind of generating the backgrounds and generating the images that match with your curriculum area. And all the while when they're doing that, they're practicing their digital skills and digital art and things there. Obviously, mini mash, we've had a brief look at. Serial mash is the books, and then mentioned, but we haven't gone into detail along the bottom. But all of these topic areas, if I just go into history, for example, and ancient Egypt, you've got a series of, for example, writing projects in here, postcards, and other activities that can be finished off. There's a book in this one from Serial Mash and Mash Cams at the bottom as well. And again, any quizzes in these areas you can open up, have a look at, press stop, edit, and then share. This one here is a writing project. It's got some information here. Children can add in images that have been pre-selected around the Nile here. you've got clip art there, and you've got some support here on the left. And all of that, again, can be edited if you click on the teacher's hat. You can edit any of the support. You can use the cogwheel at the top to add in other support, and you can also do things like add images to the gallery. Just before we finish then, the last thing I wanted to sort of squeeze in was in the work area. We've adjusted the work area slightly in here. You can also upload, so you, as well as saving Purple Mash documents, you can upload documents and files into here. If I just pop in this one I've got on my computer. So that's a Word document. If I wanted to set that as a to-do, I click on set to-do. I can go through and set that as a to-do, and then the children can download it, upload the result, and then I've got view folder, and any of their work they've handed in will be in here. And you can do things like set PDFs, worksheets that they might want to print off and fill in, and then they could upload a picture of their final work and hand that in to you, so that you know it's flexible there as well. And we haven't got to it because I've come right to the end, but in remote learning there, we had a little bit of a look at a display board earlier to see the game images, but you've got also videos on how to use display boards and the 2-email system and the blogging system in here as well. We've uploaded the blogging, updated the blogging recently, and there's some really wonderful kind of blogging options that you can use now as well. Has anybody got any questions? Left 2 to 3 minutes ago, so I'm going to just pause there. I feel like I've gone through without a breath.
Wow, so comprehensive. It's
Yeah.
so much fun, Purple Mash. You know, and I imagine I don't know how you've scratched the surface of all the things that it can do, but you've done through quite a lot in a very short space of time. So thank you so much.
It was a lot to fit in. Yeah. So hopefully that was useful.
Cool.
Has anybody got any questions? I think.
Yes. So I'm going to rush through these really quickly. So how do you create a QR code for a piece of work?
Okay, so you create a QR code for a piece of work. If I just open a piece of work I've got in my work folder. Okay, let's open up this amazing game. So we create a QR code by going up to the menu and going to share. And when you click on share, you've got link and QR code, and you can save that QR code out, and that's also a unique link. And anybody who accesses that piece of work through that link or QR code, they don't have to log in. If you generate an online notice board like I did here, so one of these online notice boards, if you want to share several bits of work at once with one QR code, you generate the notice boards in here called Manage Display Boards. And when you set up a display board, it will say QR code link. That one's not a public one. Oh, here we go. So you need to check visible to public, and then you've got get links, and that will give you a QR code and a URL. And it's the same with blog. So when you set up a blog, in here you'll have visible to public, and you'll have the ability to get the QR code or the link or the embed code for the blog.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Is Busy Beats free?
Yes. So go down to Tools at the bottom under Music and Sound. Busy Beats is, and Busy Beats is fantastic. It's we'll have a scheme of work unit in and around Upper Key Stage 2 to go with it very soon. But it's very kind of high level kind of technical mixing of different sounds and things to generate music.
Brilliant.
If you are a Purple Mash user and you haven't got it on your screen, clear your cache and reload Purple Mash. It is out. Yeah.
Thank you. 3 more. Sorry, lots of flashing coming up on my inbox. How is the tray different from work folders?
The tray is different from the work folders in that it's actually the same thing. So if you put something in your tray in Minimash, in Purple Mash, if I'm a teacher and I go to Alfie's folder, anything he's put in his tray in Minimash, I will see in Purple Mash. It's just that in Minimash, because of the environment, we don't have a link to all the different types of functionality and a link through to work at the top. So Alfie's My Work folder is shown in Minimash as a tray. And in Purple Mash, it's the My Work folder. It's actually the same folder, but visualized differently in different places.
Thank you. Next question. What is the tab box used for? Or tag box?
The tag box. Okay, so in the work area, you've got a search button here, and you can search for particular tags. Okay, now if you search for a tag of, like, say, search for, say, science, if you're setting a to-do, let's just pop into a science to-do here, and I go to set a to-do, I've got enter a tag. If I was to tag that with science, it will tag every piece of work that's done through that to-do will be tagged with the word science, and if I searched for science in the work area, all that work would come up, regardless of whether they got science in the title, because they got science in the tag.
Brilliant.
Can I add a little bit into that bit as well? Sorry. When you're working with to-dos, the data area is where you can see all the different judgments as well. So if you are searching for work that you've done through to-dos and you've tagged with a particular objective, anything you kind of add a judgment to will appear into here, and that can all be exported, and all your scores appear in here as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Final question. What was the non-linear writing app demoed called? What was that on?
It was called To Create a Story. So if I go into Tools and To Create a Story and launch the app, it was actually the third one, My Adventure Story. A little tip here, if you don't want the children to get to this point and choose the wrong one, then go into My Adventure Story and then go up to here and share and set it as a to-do, and they'll be in the right one. You can also add on your backgrounds and any sprites or anything you want to, and then set them a kind of a half-made story if you want them to complete it.
Brilliant, thank you. There are a couple of other questions, but we're out of time. So what I'm going to do is say thank you so much, Lucy, for presenting. That was brilliant.
That's okay, quite all right.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. At the end of this session, a survey will pop up in your browser. So please take a moment to feedback. Let us know any comments, and please also share them on Twitter using the hashtag CAS Virtual 20. We have 2 more sessions coming up today. At 2 o'clock, join John Woolard and the CAS Assessment Working Group as they talk about the work they've been carrying out on assessment in computing education during the showcase. That's the first session. Alternatively, join Corinne Sherman for her session Computer Science Journey, Year 7 to 13, where Corinne will focus on 3 areas: intent, implementation, and impact. And she'll talk in detail about what the computer science journey looks like at her school. So those are your 2 choices at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, Lucy, thank you again. That was brilliant.
That's quite all right. I've just popped on Tim my email address and a little note that say that you can search Facebook for the Purple Mash group. If you asked one of the questions that weren't answered, then please do get in contact with me or have a look on the group as well. That's
perfect. Thank you.
All right.
And thank you to everyone for coming along today. And I hope to see you at the next session or session tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye, Tim. Thanks.